The first thing I wanna say before I get into the material here is I wanna promote this book. It's less than $10 on Amazon, and it is the best book you can own. It's called The Elements of Style. It's by William Strunk Jr. and E.B. White. If you recognize E.B. White, that's the guy that wrote.
Can you speak up a little bit more?
Oh, the microphone's too far.
Oh, okay, hold on. Forgot about this. How's that? Is that better?
Much better.
Yeah, okay. All right, so here's the book. The Elements of Style by William Strunk Jr. and E.B. White. And E.B. White's the one that wrote Stuart Little and,
Oh.
yeah, it's Charlotte's Web, I believe, too.
Yeah.
And then William Strunk Jr., he was a driving force in getting the Chicago Manual of Style going, and that is the, pardon my terms, Bible for fiction writing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, this book is a really good investment. It's usually less than $10, and sometimes you can get it for around $5 if you watch. But it's on Amazon, and this is my last copy.
Well, do they charge extra for shipping too?
No, I get free shipping.
Huh?
I get free shipping because I have
Oh, I know,
Amazon
but you said it was
Prime.
$5, but they charge tax and stuff.
Well, yeah, maybe. No, it's not. It's less than $10 with the tax
Oh,
usually, but it can be even $5 with plus tax if you watch the sales.
oh, okay.
So,
It's cheaper to order it than just go in the store and buy it?
well, no, if you know where you can buy it, go ahead and do it.
Oh, I
Go
know.
for it. But they'll charge you so they can make a profit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have to stay in business too, you know.
Yeah,
So they're not gonna sell it to you for what they pay for it.
okay.
Okay, so that was my promotion for the day. There are a lot of things you can do for yourselves to benefit your writing and make it even better. I've even learned from this thing, and I've been around this for a long time, so. Okay, so we are going to talk about story structure. And in order to do that, I guess there's a couple other things I want to talk about too. Is what genre you're writing in. Is it still okay? Because I've been going like this. Okay. This sheet gives you an idea of really broad categories of genre, and it gives you an approximation of word count for these novels. There's also, short stories, which can be up to 7,500 words. There's, what is it called? Young adult things are a little bit fewer words, and if you want a novella, that can be up to 20,000 words. So, and these are just guidelines. They're not set in stone, but it'll give you an idea if you're on the right track. One of the sources that I use for this information is Reedsy. It's R-E-E, you might want to write this down, REEDSY.com. There's tons of information about writing there. They also try to sell you stuff too, but you don't ever have to buy anything. You can just read what they've got, and it's a wonderful website resource. So, and the other thing, I've had several questions about how many words are on an 8.5 by 11 page if it's typewritten. And it's going to vary too, because you're going to have different people setting different margins and different typefaces, even though they're all, say they're 12 point. Times New Roman is one of the smaller ones, and I use Bookman Old Style a lot, and that's quite a bit bigger. And Garamond is somewhere in the middle between those two. So depending on what style you use And whether you do things in bold, or you do them in italics, or you do, there's variables in there. But approximately 400 to 500 words on a page. And you might want to note that. If you're writing, just typing in a Word document and you didn't change the size of the page, and it's 8.5 by 11, you'll know about how many words you've got on a page. Somewhere between 400 and 500. So I've had that question asked several times. Thank Carol, because she asked it to me the most recently, and I looked it up. So this genre by genre breakdown, this colorful one here, can be helpful in a way because it gives you an idea of what your story should be. If you need to eliminate extra stuff that you don't need, you can cut it down. If you need to expand on it, you can do so. But if you're in the ballpark of these numbers, you're probably doing good. You're doing well. You should do what Eric Schubach talked to us about, and that is when you choose the categories, when you upload your book to Amazon, be sure and get them into the finest level, the lowest level that you can get. So if the genre might be mystery and thriller, and then you might have a choice between mystery, thriller, and then the next one might be action, it might be, there's lots of words, and then there might be even a fourth category that you can kind of go down into. It's like making a diagram. This would be the fourth level of the diagram. So that's a good way to do things. And according to Eric, and I guess this is true, I hadn't really researched it, but if you put it in the lowest category, it gets put into the ones above it too. And that's really good for sales, attracting readers. So anyway, I hope this is helpful for you, but kind of visit, and mine don't fit into one of these categories. They fit into mystery, thriller, but they also fit into sci-fi, and they also fit into cozy mystery, which is that's a type of mystery. And I really had a hard time picking a category for a long time. So anyway, is that helpful, and are there any questions on that part?
Yes. That's nice. That's nice.
Huh?
That's nice.
Yes, I got that off of Read Feed.
Oh.
Do they have a number of words for children's books?
For children's books, yes, and I didn't do those, and I should have. But middle grade is 20 to 55,000, and I think children's books could be as little as 400 words, especially if there's lots of pictures.
Right.
If I'm remembering this
That's
correctly,
what I
and I
like
think I
about this.
am.
not
Zero.
pictures.
Children's books can be 0 to like 400 because they don't. Some picture book.
Well, yeah, some picture books, but don't they have a word once in a while? I mean, even the Color Kittens did. I love that book, by the way.
Me too.
And the pokey little puppy. Remember that one? Yeah. So, anyway, and so, are there any other questions on this section of it? We're going to take time to do the story structure now. This is the main part of what I wanted to show you guys. And it's going to take a while. So we're doing, I don't know if Carol and Terry, because you weren't here when I asked, maybe, or maybe you were, Terry, but I asked if anybody had seen the movie Jaws.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay, so most everybody will know, and I used that example so I could give you an idea of what all this means, because it could be confusing, okay? So we're going to do about the word Jaws, okay? About the movie Jaws, I'm sorry. How I set this up is so you could use it. You can write your book title in this right here, this top square that's shaded. And then under the first act, it says approximately so many pages, and I did modify this a little bit. It doesn't say 8.5 by 11 anymore, but I took out the zeros and put in spaces instead. Is that how yours is? Okay, so you can approximate how many pages based on the, but that would be for an 8.5 by 11. Okay, it's going to be more if you do a like a 6 by 9, which is the standard size. I do a 5 1/4 by 8, I think, for my books. But there are some standard sizes, and but if you know how many the word count is really important. So that's the one you want to fill in. And you can say, okay, I'm going to write fantasy or a sci-fi book. So I want to, my target is around 100,000 words. You know, you're going to write more or less, especially in the first draft. But you shoot for 100,000, and that's kind of how this is going to help. Most of them include 100,000 memoir, not as much because it's more of a lot of people write memoirs, but they aren't the bestsellers usually. They are some, but, and then the other one that's all the ones that are 100,000, but it's a good round number, okay? And we could even pick 80,000 if you want, but I read Jaws before they ever thought of making a movie out of it, so
Oh, wow.
it was probably close to 100,000 words. And it was a mystery thriller too, mostly, but so we're gonna look first at the first act, and we're gonna ignore the pages for now, okay, and we'll just put about. And you want the book title, I would put the number of words that you expect to write, which would be about 100,000, up here where the title goes, after the title, just put 100,000. The first act should be about 1/4 of that, so about 25,000 words for the first act. This is like a 3-act play, Carol. So, Carol's been in lots of plays and written some, so.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you talk about memoirs, that's usually a long story of someone's life. I don't write that. I write short stories, but they're.
And there are a lot of people that are doing that now.
But they're still memoirs.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're not all.
So
one.
do an anthology or
Okay,
or whatever, put all your
You
stories in one
you
book
still
like
call
Kevin
them-
did.
Still call them memoirs? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a genre that you can category that you can put it in on Amazon.
Okay.
You can call it whatever you want, as long as it's not late for dinner, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're gonna first talk about the first act. The first thing you wanna do, and then we're talking about fiction now, so probably not as much about memoirs, but you can do this with a memoir too, is the hook.
Well, yeah.
You want to get the reader interested as quickly as you can, preferably in the first page, and even better is in the first paragraph. That's not always possible, but get them into the story, get them caring about the book right away. That's really, really important. Okay, and so in the movie Jaws, the first thing that happens is we don't know that it's a shark right away, but it's something attacks that girl and kills her. Okay, that's the very beginning of the movie. That's what it shows, and that sucks you into okay, what's going on here? What's the danger out in here in the ocean in this really calm village called Amity?
Mhm.
And so, so the first thing, the hook is the shark eats the girl. I don't know how else to put it. We don't know that it's a shark yet, but that's what happens. Anyway, then the second thing that you want to think about in the first act is the inciting event. This would be about halfway through the chapter, so somewhere around 12 or 13,000 words, this is going to happen. The thing you do before that is you establish the normal. You give your readers a feel for what the life is like on Amity, for example, and what life is like for the protagonist, who is the sheriff, or the chief of police, I'm sorry. So you see him with his family, you see him with his kids, you see his parents the parents are a little bit overprotective of their kids, you know, but they care about them a lot. And they care about each other a lot, that's established. And he used to be a cop in New York City, and he hated it because it was awful, and he said things are so much more peaceful here, okay? There's not the violent crime that I saw every day in New York City. So, we know that he's expecting a quiet life, right? So that's establishing the normal. And then you see this small town, they're practicing for a parade in one of the scenes that's establishing the normal. And the coroner calls him on the phone in the office because he's filling out the form of this girl's death, and tells him that it was a shark attack. So he types that, and it shows him typing that. So this is probably the part of the turning point, okay? Then he's worried about his son, who's out in the ocean with a bunch of the scouts, and they're doing swimming things. And so he goes out to warn them, and the mayor and his councilman drive out, get on the ferry with him, and tell him no, it wasn't. Oh, and the coroner was with him too. And he changed his story. He said, no, it was a boating accident.
Oh.
So, because they're coming up on the 4th of July, and that's their tourist trade, and it's all about money, okay? Yeah. So, you know all of that. Eventually, when you get toward the inciting event, which is not yet happening, but this is establishing the normal and establishing the reaction to this girl that died. And then you get to the key event, and that's what engages the chief of police with the conflict, and that's toward the end of the first act, okay? And what engages him is that they make him open the beaches on the 4th of July, which he doesn't want to do. And he has all these people out there watching, and they have one false alarm from these kids making a cardboard fin and swimming in with the snorkels underwater, and they just about get shot. But then that gets settled down, and all of a sudden this woman sees a shark fin, the dorsal fin, swimming in toward the pond where he made his kids stay because he thought they'd be safe there. And that was how the sheriff that was how he engaged in this conflict between the sheriff's department and the business people, and then the just ordinary people that didn't want to be eaten by a shark. So that was the key event. Now the first plot point is a little bit different, because that's when everything starts to change for the protagonist. he had called in, one of the other main characters, Richard Dreyfuss played the part, to come and help and advise and stuff, and he said, no, this is definitely a shark attack, and he tries to tell the people that the shark that they caught couldn't have possibly caused the damage to the girl, and not even the boy maybe, but, one of the young boys and the dog got eaten before this first plot point. But, this whole day involved the sheriff's kids, the mayor's kids, and the mayor finally signs a paper to hire the guy that said, okay, I'll do this for $10,000.
Kill the shark.
Yeah, and he becomes quite a main character. Robert Child is great in that too. But that is the first plot point. That's where everything changes for the protagonist, and it's when he and the expert from the Shark Institute or whatever he did, they go out on the boat at night because they had cut open the shark that got caught and found out that it didn't eat the boy. So they knew the shark was still out there. They kind of figured that anyway. So the sheriff does not want to go in the water at all. He's afraid of the water. And the Richard Dreyfuss character talks him into going out on his really fancy boat with all the detectors and cameras in it and everything. And they go out at night and they find a boat that was damaged, and the expert goes down and finds a shark tooth about that big. And then this guy's obviously been killed by a shark, and he sees the remains and panics and drops everything and swims back to the surface and wants to get out of the water, and I don't blame him. But they, that's when it really changed for the sheriff, because he knew he had to do this to protect his kids. So that's the first plot point. So we got the hook, the inciting event, the key event, and the first plot point. Is there any questions about the first act? None? Okay, what I would like you to do is take one of your stories, and this can apply to a short story or a memoir or anything that's partly fiction, you know, because you have control over what happens. But mostly a novel of some sort. So, no questions on the first act? Okay, I would like you to think about whatever you're working on and or have an idea about for a story, and think about how that would relate to the story and what you could do. So that's it. You've got a fourth of the way through the book. You should have people really hooked and not wanting to put the book down by then.
Mm-hmm.
But your story should really hook you and want to finish it too. And so I'll give you a minute to take a breath. I'm going to have a drink of water, and then we'll go to the second act.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to shut it off.
Okay, so now, after that short commercial break, we will go into the second act. Okay, and this is like half the book. So once we get done with the second act, we're going to be 3/4 of the way through the book. So this is going to be about 50,000 words. So that gives you a perspective of volume. And these numbers are approximate. You know, you have to tell your story how you tell your story. That's part of writing. But this gives you a kind of a guideline. Did you guys ever see Pirates of the Caribbean?
Oh, yes.
And,
So-
the one that played Captain Barbosa.
Oh, yeah.
And she was saying, well, we're sticking to the Pirates Code, right? He says, well, it's more like guidelines. Well, this is more like guidelines, okay? So, anyway, all right, let's start with the second act. So the first half of the second act, that would be about 25,000 words. So you're gonna be halfway through the book when you get done with this section. And this is where the protagonist is kind of in reaction mode. He's reacting to the things that are happening around him. And so the lady whose son died said, you knew about this, and came up and slapped him in public. And really made a big deal out of it. And the townspeople, some of the merchants are really on his case because he wants to keep the beaches closed. They said no. And but he reacts to all these things. He doesn't take action, pretty much. So, and you have to keep building the story where he's reacting to all these different things that are coming at him. And he has to react to the Hooper, I think is the one Richard Dreyfuss played. I think his name was Hooper. So he had to react to that. And he wanted Hooper to be on the boat with him, and he paid Robert Shaw, who played the Quint, what was his name in the movie, the captain of the ship that was going to go out and kill the shark. And he was a crusty old character. Anyway, so he had to kind of make sure that Hooper got to be on the boat too, and told him that he was chartering the boat, so he's paying for this, so you gotta let me have my way on this. I'm going, and so is Hooper. So that's what, and so he's reacting to Quint. He wants to radio for help, and Quint breaks the radio, and so he can't call for help. And of course, one of the first things he does when he first sees the shark and sees how big it is, he goes to Quint and says, we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yes.
And
That was a good funny scene.
I know it was. And then, so they're out hunting the shark, and everything that Quint does seems to sabotage what they're trying to do. I don't think he does it all on purpose, but he's very, he didn't want these other people helping him. And then he tells the story about how he was on the ship that delivered the atom bomb to the bombers to throw on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and nobody knew that they were in the ocean coming back from that, and their boat was sinking. I know it's 1,500 men that survived that, but by the time they got spotted and got help, they were only able to rescue 310 because the sharks came.
Yeah, I
So-
remember that.
That was one of the things that he reacted to. And,
That was fun.
yeah. And then they're sitting there and they're singing these old sailor songs and pounding on the table and making lots of noise, and then the shark bumps into the boat. And bumps into it and bumps into it, puts a hole in it so it's starting to sink, and so that is the midpoint where things start to change again.
I remember watching that the first time and yelling at them, be quiet.
Even we watched
Even
it
as
with the kids.
We're like, be quiet.
Yeah, well, now, beyond that midpoint, then, is it Roy Scheider that starred in it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, he's the protagonist, and he goes on the offensive. I mean, he's hired this boat. That was a offensive move. He made the sheriff or the mayor sign for it, but he hadn't really taken charge yet. He was starting to take charge when he told Quint that they were both going to come with him, because Quint said, "I'll do this on my own. I don't want any help." Well, but now he's starting to take action. He's throwing the chum out in the water, and that's when he spots the shark and sees how big it is, but once the boat starts to take on water and the radio's gone, they can't call for help, and then the salt water gets into the engine and the engine quits.
Yep.
I mean, all those things happen, and he has to deal with them now. He has to go on the offensive to get the shark, and then they put Hooper in the shark cage and put him down in the water, and of course Hooper was going to shoot strychnine into its mouth, because he knew it wouldn't go through the shark's skin, and he drops the strychnine needle down to the bottom of the ocean,
Too scared.
and the shark attacks the cage and Hooper he sneaks out the bottom when there's something else happened, and I think one of the things that distracted the shark, wasn't it, the sheriff started shooting at him with his gun?
I think so.
I think so. Anyway, so he's taking action, and he's doing things that hopefully will make it do better, and it's desperation. And now we're to the last 1/4 of the book on the third act. First, I want to ask questions. Are you following me so far? Even those of you who've never seen Jaws. I just saw this the other night. That's why it reminded me. It's fresh in my mind. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the third act, which is the last act. That's what wraps it all up. And that's going to be another about 25,000 words. Okay, so we've got the second half of the second act, and the protagonist goes on the offensive. And then we're on the third act. So it starts with the third plot point. Everything changes once again, and it forces him to his lowest point. So that's when the boat gets, the back of the boat, the stern, gets in the water, and he and Quinn are scrambling to safety, and the shark gets Quinn and eats him right in front of the sheriff's eyes. I mean, that's pretty gory. But that was a catastrophic event, because they got no captain. He doesn't know anything about boating or boats, because they established that earlier. And here he is, out alone on the ocean with this crazy shark on his own, because he thinks that Hooper's dead too, because they pulled in the shark cage and it's all destroyed and no Hooper. So that's what changes everything again. And then it disappears into the ocean. But before it does, it starts to attack and to get the chief of police, and he remembers about the oxygen tank, and he shoves it and the shark gets it in his mouth. And then he takes something and shoots it somehow into the shark's mouth, so it was really uncomfortable, and the air tank is working its way to the corner of his mouth. Okay? And then the climax is when he gets to shoot the air tank and it blows the shark up and there's shark steaks all over the ocean. Okay, so that's the climax. That's the point of the whole story. They get the shark.
Mhm.
And it's also the climactic moment, the final plot twist. I mean, the climax is kind of both all that wrapped up together. And then the resolution, which caps the story with finality. It ties off all the loose ends in a scene or two. So the resolution is short. Because you don't want to make it go on and on and on, or you lose interest. It's the answer to the hook, in a way. So Hooper appears, and the two of them grab those floaters that they were trying to get the shark so he couldn't dive under the water. They grab a couple of those and they're pedaling their feet towards shore. And that's the end of the movie.
It's to be scary.
Yeah. So it's an interest, it grabs your interest. I mean, I've seen the movie a bunch of times and Ray's seen it, and we both had to watch it. Because we'd seen it before, but we had to watch it because it's that gripping.
Yes.
And that's what you want.
Mhm.
That's what you want when you're writing. You want to grab the reader's interest and hold it on tight. So, and this doesn't have to be the gore to get this. It could be anything that will make people interested and want to know more. If they want to know more, they're going to keep reading. And that's what you want them to do. That's why you write. You write so that people will read what you've written because it's important to you and you want to share it with the world. So that is why, my biggest why of writing. Are there any questions on this? Yes. Did you know?
I'm gonna probably look through my phones and see if I did this.
Well, poetry is a whole different idea, but it's not.